Billy Joe Saunders is one of the more outspoken crop of British boxers. He has actually made one interesting point about Chris Eubank's preparation for this fight. Fury Chisora card, Fury the 29th. These two will be facing off on the undercard. Billy Joe Saunders at a press conference today was very aggressive in offering Chris Eubank Jr. A theoretical £20,000 not to fight on the Liverpool card, which Frank Warren is hosting on October the 25th, because Saunders is worried that an injury could be sustained, or something of that nature, which will rule Chris Eubank Jr. out. Now it's a valid point, because one would presume Chris Eubank Jr. is not making a lot of money fighting on October the 25th card, and you presume with Frank Warren promoting both shows, Warren would be on the same footing of wanting Chris Eubank Jr. to be safe and to go straight into the November the 29th fight. Now, I appreciate people will say Eubank Jr. will probably be put in with somebody who's got no ability to hurt him, and I accept that that's true, but this is boxing. We're not just talking about someone beating him up. We're talking about, him hurting a hand, maybe when he's hitting someone. We're talking about maybe a clash of heads and a cut, something like that could potentially rule Eubank Jr. out of the fight. And it does seem strange for someone like Eubank Jr., who's been at least moderately active this year, who's been doing a lot of sparring, certainly, to need a fight 4 weeks in advance. I don't really understand what the purpose of that is, and it seems like a risk with all the big money that will be at stake for this fight. Why I find this more bizarre is the original opponent was Jez Wilson. Now, Jez Wilson is no world beater, but arguably the strongest opponent Chris Eubank Jr. has ever faced. I know he's someone I'd expect Eubank Jr. to beat, but I'd almost view that as a bit of a test for Eubank Jr. It's a test I'd expect him to come through, but it's a reasonable level of opposition compared to some of the guys he's been in with of late. So I found that very strange. It all didn't add up to me. I think this fight's come too early for Chris Eubank Jr. It's not that he doesn't have the potential to operate at a higher level, but he's gone straight from knocking out nobodies to a fight with Billy Joe Saunders, who I believe is a real serious talent. So I would have liked to have seen him take on a Jez Wilson or a Blackwell or a John Ryder before having this fight with Saunders. I think that experience would have prepared him. And I wonder whether that Jez Wilson fight was trying to give him some sort of moderate experience before stepping him up. But it all seems a bit of a mess 4 or 5 weeks before the fight. I don't like it as preparation. I'm interested to hear other people's thoughts. What is the idea of a fighter fighting so soon to the most major fight of their career? You presume he doesn't need it for fitness or for anything like that. So why would you risk such a large amount of money? Doesn't really add up to me. I share Billy Joe Saunders' concern that there's still scope for this fight not to happen. The Eubanks messing around with the contract situation at start was what Frank Warren described as the most farcical situation he'd ever seen in his boxing career, and that gave an indication maybe they didn't want the fight. Is this a way of getting out of it? It'd be interesting to see, but things happen in fights. Headbutts happen, hurt hands happen, and it would be no surprise if he needed longer than 4 weeks to recover before the biggest fight of his life. So I don't like this. As someone who's desperate to see the Eubank Jr. versus Saunders fight, it makes me slightly uncomfortable. Keen to hear people's thoughts on this. Thanks very much for watching.